Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the snow kiting out of Charlotte Pass. I'm Mike from Kitethrills, and my co-producer here is Jen Milton from Adrenajen. Say hi, Jen.
Hey everybody, how you going? I'm super excited to be here to talk snow kiting with you today, and even more excited to actually be going snow kiting next week with Mike out of Charlotte's Pass. So looking forward to hearing more about what it's like to go snow kiting out of Charlotte's Pass, because I normally go out of Threadbow. So Mike's a lot more experienced out of Charlotte's. Tell us
Yeah.
more, Mike.
Yeah, well, thanks, Jen. Yeah, we've got the typical place to go snow kiting on the New South Wales main range is Threadbow. So, um, yeah, sometimes the convenience of just being able to drive to the bottom of the lift and take the chair up and do a short hike and being out in the main range is really easy from Threadbow. But from Charlotte's Pass, it's up in the snow. You can't drive there. You get to over snow transport from Perisher, and then you typically will stay in a lodge in Charlotte's Pass for a week or so, and from there you've got really good access. Get to the top of the lift, and yeah, you can see the main range and ski downhill into the backcountry, and you're there. So very easy access from Charlotte Pass once you're there. Not so easy to get there. So we'll cover that topic a little bit more later on. But right now, I'd
Hey,
like to yeah.
hey, Mike. So you're telling me that it's a shorter hike out of Charlotte's than Threadbow?
Well, check out this video. You'll see the hike
Yeah.
from this next video. I'm going to share my screen. And this is a video I took just from the top of the chair last week. So actually, I'll just go desktop. We'll share it now. Can you see that video? You can?
Yep, I can see that, Mike.
Okay, let's play that. Guys, it's Mike here from Kite Thrills at the top of the chair at Charlotte's Pass. Behind me is the Australian main range. Pretty incredible. Out here, right in front of Charlotte's Pass, we've got Mount Clark and then Mount Townsend in the back. Mount Lee here, Carruthers Peak and Club Lake underneath it. Over here, we've got Mount Twynham and Blue Lake under there. Coming across over here, we've got that sort of rounded one at the top is Kosciuszko, and the ridge in front of it is Etheridge Ridge. And it's hard to see, but there's Seaman's Hut down there. Coming across over here, we've got the little peak of North Ram's Head and Threadbow's below that. Up to the top here, we've got Stillwell and Little Stillwell, and this ridge in the middle here is really good in a southerly wind for kiting. We're downhill all the way into Charlotte's Pass, but we get the Venturi effect between the mountains and the compression ridge lift over the top there, so you get a little bit of extra wind up in this gully here. That's good in a southerly. Westerlies, we get the ridge lift all along here, and then we can also head out here in a south wind and go up to the top of these hills over here, either Mount Clark or Twynham. Oh, sorry, Townsend. So yeah, we've got a lot of options. We're going to have a great time. 18th to 25th of September. Join us. It's kitethrills.com/travel. Get online, and we hope you can join us for an amazing week of snow kiting. Woo!
Woo! Oh my God, Mike, that terrain looks
It's
incredible.
pretty amazing. That's off the top of the chair, so there's no hike. You can just go downhill, straight
That
off the chair, and stop at the
it look
rope, get under it, and away you go.
it looks like there's lots of options for different wind directions and different wind speeds. And you were there recently. How's the snow cover?
The snow's amazing. It's going. We're going to get another dump, so it'll look like what we just saw. When we wake up on Monday morning, we'll get there on Sunday. It will have been dumping on Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday morning, perhaps it's a bit of a long range forecast, so perhaps it'll be a little bit low cloud, but you never know. These forecasts, you don't want to put too much weight on them. Always be prepared for something else. So it's pretty likely. It's a big cold air mass moving up. It's got some moisture in it. It's going to snow. Fingers crossed. And yeah, it's going to get cold and it's going to be really nice. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
I've been doing my forecasting too, as we all do as kiters. You know, we're all amateur meteorologists, and I'm seeing, you know, a really good storm coming in, which is going to bring snow at high altitude where we're going snow kiting. So even if you see that there's a possibility of rain in the lower altitude resorts, I've got a great feeling we're going to get some powder up high. And then I'm actually seeing some sun coming through in our week. So, you know, we could get an Aussie power snow kite session, which those sessions are pretty special.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'll share the screen again over to the forecast and have a bit of a quick look at. Oh, I can't see behind there. There we go. So this is the forecast for Charlotte's Pass, and this is actually not a bad map. You can see the proximity: Thredbo, Jindabyne, Perish is about here. It's right in the middle. I'll show you another one in a second. But here is our forecast. So Sunday the 18th is when we plan to arrive, and then coming forward we've got we've got straight into sunshine and wind. It looks pretty epic to me. I think we're going to get good conditions, so I'm pretty happy with that. I also wanted to just show you the map, where it is. Here we go. So this is interesting. It's the terrain map. So let's just zoom out a little bit and give you a big perspective. So that yellowy area here is the snow-covered main range. Thredbo comes off the side of it here, and it's a really big vertical down to the Thredbo River and into the village. Long vertical, great ski resort. Perish is over here. It's up higher. There's Guthaga, Smiggins Holes. There's loads of lifts in there, and Charlotte's Pass is up above Perisher in this little bowl here. It's right on the edge of the main range. So I was standing at the top here, looking over west to this ridge, and then up to Mount Stillwell up here and across. So this is, I think that's Club Lake. And no, sorry, that's Blue Lake, and Club Lake's over here. So the big bowly area was this space here, and all we've really got to do is come down a little space away from the resort, so we're not at risk of dropping our kite in the resort or anything like that. Downhill easy, launch our kites. There's a big space there, and find our way across the river, which we'll talk about that in a minute. It can be hazardous. And then we're out here. That's in a sort of southerly or westerly wind, but there's so much terrain to go from Charlotte's Pass out this way towards Thredbo, Kosciuszko. There's so many options there. It's a really great spot and just so easy. You just get off the lift and you're there. So speaking about crossing the rivers, I think I've got a picture here where possibly not. No, I didn't get to load it in time. But crossing the rivers can be really hazardous. So I was a ski patroller at Thredbo, and that was one of our worst nightmares, that someone would duck under one of our rope lines to get a shortcut and fall into a river. So basically, you know, just off freezing cold water, flowing pretty fast into a snow cave and down into the depths, and it may not emerge with the sunlight for, you know, hundreds of meters, and you can think you can just go across. The snow collapses underneath. It's all hollow underneath where the river's flowing under the snow. That collapses. You go in, you're wearing your skis and your snowboard, and you're in this torrent of freezing cold water getting washed into the darkness. It really is the kind of death situation that you do not want to be part of. So crossing rivers in the backcountry, especially in steeper terrain, you really need to be careful and cautious. So,
and I don't think we're going to cross the river. We can see it from afar. If it's looking good and there's a big snow bridge, that's awesome. But we'll be making all of those safety decisions when we're out there and looking at the terrain at the time. Those decisions
exactly.
Can't
you know,
really
some spots you can see the bottom of the river and you can see it's not flowing fast, and there's a bit of a snow bridge, and you can, you know, it's not risky, but you need to look at the terrain really to assess. So that picture that you're looking at there, that's Watson's Crag. Obviously, there's going to be some rivers there. They're going to be flowing fast, almost like waterfalls. and you want to be careful about being in those gullies. But perhaps in flat country, it might not be something that you need to be so concerned about.
And Mike, do we need to cross a river to get to some epic snow kiting?
We don't need to, but have a look here. So this is the Snowy River here. Up here, it's very flat ground, and crossing it there, you wouldn't even know you're crossing it. There's probably a lot of snow and there's not a lot of flow. It's almost dead flat. Whereas down here in this gully, you know you're crossing it for sure, and it's got a lot more of a catchment flowing into it. I've been told by some experienced backcountry tourers out of Charlotte's Pass that even after quite a rainfall, the next day, rainfall overnight and midday the next day, there's not much flow in here. It really drains quite quickly. So it's just a case of what you see on the day and assessing it. Crossing down here is not really the easiest thing to do, and it's more risky. There's more flow. It's steeper terrain. You fall in, it's going to be harder to get out. Whereas crossing a river up here, well, you may not even know you're crossing it. It's just flat ground, and so then there's everywhere in between. So to answer your question, Jen, it's a really good question. Do we need to? So there's kind of two basic categories of snow kiting from Charlotte's Pass, I'd say. So there's just kind of jibbing or cruising around in one little spot. And I've had some epic sessions just in this space down here. There's a quarter pipe that forms on some sort of natural terrain, and sometimes it's just the right wind angle and you can just hit this quarter pipe and boost and come back down, and it's really fun. And if something goes wrong, it's a short walk to the ridge and you're back into the resort downhill to your resort. So that's kind of easy snow kiting, and that's what's epic about Charlotte Pass. There's a lot of terrain in different wind angles, and it's easy to do it not far from home. The other type of snow kiting is more backcountry touring, and so an example of that would be to start here off the top of the chair, launch your kites here in a sort of west or northwest wind, and tour over this way. This is coming across here, and we can come across all this flat ground. It's beautiful. Up around Seaman's Hut, come up to Etheridge Ridge, and maybe get up to Mount Kosciuszko, given the right wind conditions. But if something goes wrong out here, you break a line or you crash your kite into the rocks, and you've got a fair old walk. That's backcountry touring, and you're much more exposed to hazards. And that's a different kettle of fish. You need to be prepared. You need to have communications and first aid and navigation equipment, much more so than if you just stick near the top of the resort. You should still carry that stuff, but right here you're well within cellular range. You've got about a 500-meter walk, which, depending on snow conditions, could be terrible or it could be quite easy. And yeah, it's a different kettle of fish to do it near the resort. So do we need to cross the river? No, but if we go touring, we probably do.
Although, Mike, I think it's really important if we're outside of resort boundaries, we're officially in the backcountry, the ski patrollers, are not legally actually permitted to come and rescue us. So no matter how far we are away from resort, everybody should be prepared with some way of touring. So if something goes wrong, the wind dies, we break a line, like you mentioned, I recommend snowboarders having some snowshoes with them or a split board. And if you've got alpine touring gear, I highly recommend, having your skins in your backpack so that we can self-rescue. We all learn about self-rescuing in the water, and that's our way of self-rescuing out in the mountain, is having touring gear. So I don't recommend anybody going out there with some sort of touring gear and all of the emergency, safety gear that we need to carry in our backpack for a backcountry mission.
Absolutely. It's easy to get it wrong when you're leaving the resort. You can easily get the snow conditions wrong or the weather forecast wrong and have to change plans. And you just got to be prepared. If you're going backcountry, you've got to be prepared. You've got to tell people where you're going, and do all the basics. So I've got a bit of a core checklist that I use when I go into the backcountry. There's sort of 7 core questions. Can I get back before dark if the wind drops? And this question affects route planning. So, for example, if we're going out to Mount Kosciuszko, that's a morning thing to do. It's a long way back. If the wind drops, you got to pack up your kite and walk home on skins or snowshoes. It's a fair old walk. You don't want to be experiencing that right on, 3 p.m. and you've got 2 hours to get back and it's a 4-hour walk. So that one question will make you think, what time of day is it? What are the snow conditions? Can I get back before the dark? Because everything changes when it gets dark and really, really cold. Another one is, if I have a minor injury, can I treat it to carry on safely? So, yeah, a minor injury, perhaps a sprain or a sore wrist, maybe even a broken wrist. That's pretty major, but it's something you can probably still carry on with. And do you have a splint in your first aid kit? Do you have a little bit of food and water and those sorts of things that you can sort yourself out with? If I have a major injury, can I be self-sufficient, or if needed, can I call for help? So major injuries, cannot carry on, you are stuck where you're hurt, and can you be self-sufficient for the period of time that it might take rescuers to come and get you? Depending on conditions, that might be a number of days. We had an incident earlier in the season where a group got stuck out there. The weather came in and they were in communication with the rescuers, but they couldn't get to them because of the weather. So they had to be self-sufficient for a few days. So that means food and shelter and warmth. So clothing, lots of sugar and carbs if you can, and some sort of shelter plan. A shovel is a pretty good backup plan. Remember, if you're injured, you can't just head on over to the hut. You're stuck where you are. So that's a real survival situation, and a shovel will go a long way to helping you.
Hey, Mike, can I just say, one of the best things to take with you when you're out there snow kiting, which is what we're providing when you come on our snow kiting week at Charlotte's Pass, is to take a backcountry guide with you. Those backcountry guides are trained to do all of this stuff. They're trained to evaluate the terrain for avalanches, for dangers. They're trained in first aid, wilderness first aid. They're trained to know what to do if the weather's coming in. So, I'm proud to not only be a certified kite instructor, but I'm a certified backcountry guide as well. And I love teaching people all of this knowledge when you come out with me, in order to learn those skills. We can't just expect any person that snow kites to have that knowledge. So having a backcountry guide come with you, that's going to start your knowledge. And then I recommend, if you're going to snow kite out there on a regular basis, doing a wilderness first aid course, doing an avalanche awareness course or an AVI 1 course. That's going to add to your skill set, because the skill sets you need for snow kiting is 1, ski and snowboard skills, 2, kite skills, and the third thing is backcountry skills. I see a lot of kiteboarders who have some excellent kite skills, and you know what? They're rippers skiing and snowboarding in the resorts, but maybe they haven't been out in the backcountry before. Maybe they haven't done an avalanche course. And so I want everybody to be aware that those are the skills that we need to learn and add to our skill set in order to be safe, confident, and self-sufficient snow kiters out in the backcountry.
And I'm really looking forward to picking up some of those skills as well, Jen. I've done a lot of stuff in the snow and first aid and ski patrolling and kiting, and I've been doing it a lot, but I've not. I'm far from know everything, and I'm really grateful to have you along on this trip. So back to the list, backcountry checklist. Can I get home before dark? If I have a minor injury, can I treat it to carry on safely? If I have a major injury, can I be self-sufficient for a period of time while rescue comes, with splints and sleds if you need to transfer a friend who's incapacitated? And importantly, do you have communication to send for help? So cellular coverage out here is patchy. Get to the tops of the peaks, you're probably all right if you're not too far from Charlotte's or Thredbo. In the valleys, maybe not so much. So personal locator beacon or a Garmin InReach, which is a similar thing, but it has SMS capabilities. is a very good idea if you're heading back country. So we'll have one of those. Fourth point is, can I stay warm? I think I covered on that, but not so much in relation to an injury. But yeah, if the weather changes suddenly, do you have layers or a thermal bag? Food will help you stay warm. Sounds strange, but it does. And shovel for shelter. Yes, Jen.
Yeah, can I add something in there?
Please.
Because it's something people don't think about, especially in Australia, because we don't have those -40 conditions that I get in Alaska. But one of the things that I learned, overseas in the really cold temperatures is having a puffy jacket with you. Now, a puffy jacket does a lot. If you can have that puffy so it fits over your ski gear, that's fantastic. We can have it on when we're setting up our kite and we might be a little cold. And then as we warm up, we can easily take it off if it's on the outside without having to strip everything off and take an underlayer out. That puffy jacket is also kind of like a wearable sleeping bag. So if somebody does get hurt, again, that puffy jacket might not just keep us warm, but it could save somebody else as well. So I always recommend getting a puffy jacket. They pack up really small in order to go in your pack. And I actually carry two with me, one that I can wear and one that I can help somebody else with.
Yeah, great advice. So if the weather closes in, which does happen, we're 2,000 meters up, the clouds can come in and you can't see your feet. Can you navigate home? That is basically a GPS telling you where to go. And yeah, sorry, carry on, Jen.
No, I was saying yes, I can navigate in a whiteout.
Yes, yeah. So that's a pretty important thing. Very least, map and a compass. If you can follow a compass bearing, and you know vaguely where you are, and you're heading for a ridge line, and you've got a map to sort of guide you as to the slope, you can navigate without visuals. So maps, compasses, and GPS gadgets for sure.
And
number six,
hang on. I would just like to add in there that, we can actually forecast whether it's going to white out or not. We can actually do our forecasting and know if there's some cloud cover coming in. So that's the time when we should be making our decisions of, is it suitable to go out today? Is it going to be a complete whiteout out there? Maybe it's not the right time to go. Maybe we can get a short session in the morning and then the clouds are coming in. And just knowing what to expect on the forecast is key to being prepared and knowing when to turn back or when not to go.
You stole my thunder. That was number 6. Do I understand the latest weather and snowpack information? So
sorry, Mike.
No, thank you. So yes, we'll come back to the snowpack because I've got another little piece I can show you. But on this checklist, the final thing, number 7, is, does a third party know my trip intention? You should be telling other people where you're going. You can register with National Parks and Wildlife. You can just tell people in your lodge. You can tell your loved ones at home. You can do all of the above, but you should let others know where you're going, because there was a fella not long ago, last week, he didn't return. He did unfortunately perish out in the main range in the snow. I only saw the ABC News reports, and journalists often don't get the full story, or they rush a story through. So I don't know the full details, but he had a personal locator beacon, but it was never activated. He was found at Watson's Crag, that image behind me, which is pretty serious terrain. He was on his own. His family knew where he was going, but he didn't return. The search was initiated. Eventually, they found his body, and I don't know more, but having had a PLB, it either didn't work or he didn't have the opportunity to activate it. So perhaps he hit his head or something. I don't know. But yes, it's a terrible story. But at least someone told him. He told someone where he was going. So yeah, there we go. That was important for him.
Mike, I actually spoke to Acacia from K7 Adventures today, and we talked about trip intention forms, because it's been a few years, over the pandemic and stuff, where people have been able to go out there. And apparently that the New South Wales Kosciuszko, National Park has a QR code that you can scan now on your phone, and you can do your trip intention form very, very easily. So if you get to the mountain and you're like, shit, I forgot to do my intention form at the National Parks office, you can do it on your phone. And I really recommend doing that.
Yeah. So back to your point about backcountry skills and knowledge, and also the weather, forecasting the weather, you can go onto this website, Mountain Safety Collective. And these guys are professional people who regularly put out these snowpack reports with the intention of educating the public on the dangers in the snowpack for avalanche or other dangers. So at the moment, there's this widespread ice. So we're getting thawing during the day, freezing at night. Morning times there's ice and it's very slippery. That is not a avalanche hazard, but it's still a hazard that on a steep slope you're not going to stop if you fall. So it's a really good service. You can do it for Victoria or New South Wales. It's called Mountain Safety Collective, and they've got some great information. So there's not really any excuse to be ignorant about what the weather and the snow conditions are going to be when you get out there. And yeah, we've got about 10 or 5 minutes left in this meeting. So I thought one more thing, Jen, perhaps you want to talk about the code of conduct and the rules or requirements that national parks would like us as kiters to adhere to. I know they don't really want us interfering with other people, and that's kind of the same as normal kiting on the beach. But perhaps there's something you can say to that topic.
Yeah, you know, Mike, there's a lot to snow kiting out there, and building up our knowledge, like I mentioned, with your ski snowboard skills, your kite skills, and your backcountry skills is so important. But there's also information that we need to understand when we're heading out there into the national park, because we currently have permission to snow kite in the national park, but unfortunately there's been national parks in the States that have been shut down and we can't snow kite there anymore. So there are rules that we need to adhere by, and those rules that I've been told by the national parks are: we cannot snow kite inside resorts. If we're going outside the resort, we should not be launching our kites if the resort is downwind of us. We need to hike further and get to a safe spot just in case we let a kite go. It would be terrible if that kite blew into resort, got wrapped around a chairlift, or worse still, hurt somebody that was just skiing in the resort. It's also important not to impact other users out there. And there are some walking trails that go from Thredbo to Kosciuszko, from Charlottes to Kosciuszko, from Charlottes to Thredbo. And so those are marked on the map. And it's really important that if there are people on those trails, that we give them a super wide berth. I mean, it's common sense, but it's really important just to remember that some of those walkers might be cheering us on and woohoo, you guys are doing awesome, but others might get pissed off that we're impacting their session. So it's important not to show off and be doing jumps around them, and certainly not having our kites, you know, above people out there in the backcountry. Doing a trip intention form is you know, compulsory in my books. Also making sure that you've got some sort of rescue insurance. Having ambulance insurance and helicopter rescue is pretty important in my books, so that if something does happen, you're not going to get this huge bill that you can't afford come in the mail after you've been rescued. So having some insurance in place, having a trip intention form, and being prepared with all of the same gear that any person with the knowledge takes out into the backcountry. Just because we're snow kiting around doesn't mean you shouldn't be wearing your backpack, right? It's easy to want to leave our backpack at base camp where we pump up our kite and go out there. But if something happens, we could be too far away from our backpack, which contains all of our emergency gear, our first aid kit, the communication. So I quite often take two backpacks out there, one containing all my kite gear, and then my backcountry pack, which is small and light, that I enjoy to snow kite with. So just make sure that you have all that gear with you.
Very good. Well, on that note, I am really looking forward to the weekend. There's still lots of people there, but you mentioned insurance. I am strongly encouraging everybody to get Kiteboarding Australia insurance for this. It's a really good insurance policy, and for $160 for a year, you get all sorts of cover, um, including your personal accident and income protection insurance, injuring other people or equipment. It's a lot of coverage for not a lot of money, and we're doing a fairly high risk and potentially high consequence activity with this. So it would be madness to not drop $160 for Kiteboarding Australia insurance. But
I'm gonna second that. Kiteboarding Australia has an excellent insurance policy, and it's not just going to cover us in an accident, but those guys come into bat for us. If beaches are trying to be closed, or if we have too many problems out there in the backcountry and the national parks want to shut us down. Plus, if you join Kiteboarding Australia, you can go to a lot of the kiteboarding events that they have around. It's really a great thing to support, and they'll support us and we can support them.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks, Jen. And there is still room for more people, your friends, family, and anybody you know who might want to snow kite and learn more about backcountry travel, avalanche risks, and tips and advice on snow kiting, as well as having an awesome week and fantastic adventure next weekend in what is looking like epic conditions. So spread the word and tell them to jump onto kitethrills.com/travel, and we want to make this a good show. It's going to be a great week, and I'm really looking forward to it. So thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Jen, and everybody who visited. If you've got any questions, we can stay on the line. I'll stop the recording now, and we'll take any questions. Thanks, guys.
Woo!
Okay. Stop recording, stop share, stop recording.